My fellow bass players, you've got the Dude Man here with you once again, and I have some big news. I may have found the all-time best bass guitar amplifier. It's right here. It's the Bergantino Forte D 800 watt amplifier. Now, many video reviews have been done on this amp already, but I dug a little deeper and I may have some intel that may have been overlooked by others. We'll get to the details in a minute, but I wanted to tell you myself, for me, I like a amp with simple controls. You know, I like to just plug in and play. I can set everything flat on this, flat on my bass, whatever bass I'm using, and when I turn it on, I'm already pretty close to being perfect. I might have to make a little adjustments, sometimes not even. But another thing I like about it is I'm kind of an aggressive player at times, and I notice less string noise, which is that's important to me. I'm very happy about that, so I do notice that, and this is probably due to the onboard compressor along with all the advanced electronics. I'll get into that a little deeper with you later. So another thing I noticed is when I play higher on the strings, it doesn't lose its tone. It's still a full sound way up high on the strings. And then maybe you get into playing some chords. For you, you know, you can hear those higher notes, like I said, when you're playing on those high strings, you're up high on the neck, you hear that full sound. It's just beautiful. That's why, one reason I think this is one of the best bass amps I've ever played. So that's really cool. Let's take a closer look. I'll put this bass down. We'll take a closer look at the amp, and I'll tell you about all the controls. Okay, here we go with the Bergantino Forte D 800 watt amp. And that 800 watt is what comes out of the setting if you have your ohms set for 2 ohms. If you have your ohms set for 4 ohms, that would be 700 watts. And that's typically using 2 8-ohm cabinets. That's my preferred cab setup. And then 350 watts at 8 ohms, and that's typically a 1 8-ohm cabinet. Okay, so from left to right, here you got your auxiliary. The auxiliary input is to practice to an iPod or whatever, drum machine or something. Here you have your input. That's a buffered input. Now, I did ask Jim Bergantino about the buffer. What is a buffered input? Honestly, I can't remember what he said, but I think it works in conjunction with some of the internal parts just to achieve a very quality signal. Okay, now your drive knob. This is the BFT drive. That stands for Big Fat Tube. Now, when you have the drive all the way counterclockwise, it's off. If you bring it up like to 9 o'clock, it's going to give you a clean tube sound, and it's going to add some harmonic qualities to it. If you bring it up to 12, you're going to hear the overdrive for sure. It's going to have that sound, but it's not really overbearing at that point. If you bring it up to 3 o'clock, that's a pretty heavy overdrive sound. If you turn it up all the way, you're going to have some pretty cool ass overdrive sounds. Pretty heavy. All right. Now, here's the unique thing about this amp, like I've never heard in any other amp. Typically, when you turn up the drive, your master volume is going to boost with it. Now, Jim Bergantino came up with an idea where when you turn this drive up, it actually brings the master down to match it automatically, and that has to do with some of the components that he used in here. He set it up so it would do that. So I thought that was a genius move on the part of Jim. So Jim Bergantino is a genius, that's all. Okay, so when you're first setting up your amp, you want to turn the master all the way down and set the tone knobs to center detent, plug in your bass, and set the volume where the volume on your bass, that is, where you think you'll be playing it, what level. Play your bass like you normally would, including some of your harder hitting techniques. Slowly add in your gain, and you'll see the overload light come on, which is right there, and it'll start flashing. Once you see it flashing, you want to back off on that gain just a little bit until it only flashes occasionally. This will give you your optimum tone. Now, once you get that set, then you don't have to mess with it again unless you plug in a different bass. You can also set your master control at this point, which is right here. So that's how you set up your bass. Okay, next to your master, you have a protection light. That comes on if there's some kind of issue that needs correcting. Then you have a clipping light down here. That comes on when the amp detects an overdriven signal at the output, which affects its ability to produce a clean signal, so you want to adjust the settings to correct it. Okay, and your 4-band EQ, that's pretty much standard by today's amplifiers. Most of them have a 4-band EQ from what I found. And dual action buttons over here. Now, I'm not crazy about dual action buttons, but these aren't too intense. So, you know, it's one of those things, just my personal preference. I like one button doing one thing. Okay, so when you hit the bright button or the mute button, it's gonna, if you hit it once, it's going to activate that particular function. Now, if you hit and hold the bright switch, it will set up the direct pre or post EQ, which is what is coming out of your direct out. And I use direct out a lot for recording live, and it works out great for me. Okay, so over here, when you hit the bright, if you hold it, it's going to change this. Now you can see it's green, and the green here says this is set up for pre-EQ. Now if you hit it and hold it again, it's going to turn it to yellow, and yellow you'll see is post EQ. So that's where your EQ is either coming in, it's going to go to the direct out before the EQ or after the EQ. Now I like it going after the EQ. That's just my personal preference. Over here, when you hit and hold the mute button, that's going to change to a yellow. Yellow is for 2 ohms. You hit it again, and that green is going to be for 4 or 8 ohm cabinets. This way you're all set up perfectly. Okay? Okay, so here we are at the back. What you got here is your power plug input and an on-off switch. Very, very common. Your line out, that's good for a tuner out. And your output here is good for headphone, silent practicing. You got your effects send and return. Over here you got your high quality direct out. And your two speak-on inputs for your speaker cords. Those are wired in parallel, so it doesn't matter which one you use. It's going to be the same. Then you have a cooling fan over here. One thing that nobody seems to mention, and I like, if you look at these feet that Jim put on here, These things are massive rubber feet. So the good thing about that a lot of people don't think of is when your amp is sitting on top of a bass cabinet, there's going to be a lot of vibration. These are going to suck up that vibration and not shake the amp around as much. It's not going to vibrate as much. But these Fortes, they're quality built, so they're pretty rock solid amplifiers. But it's still good to have that. Plus, you got some space under here where there's going to be a little more airflow, maybe keep your amp cooler. So that's a good thing. Okay, now let's talk about some of the features and functions that you may not be aware of what's going on. DSP, this has digital signal processing. All right, so it works in conjunction with the micro-controlled embedded system. Now, what the hell is that, right? A micro-controlled embedded system is actually, Jim puts these little computers in here, and when you make adjustments on the front of your amp, they're going to react to what you're doing and adjust accordingly to give you your optimum sound. So that's a good thing. It's pretty advanced technology, I'd say. I never even heard of it before. Very cool. Let's check out that overdrive a little bit. Here's what I was talking about. This is 25% or 9 o'clock. Let's go up to 12 o'clock, see what happens. Pretty cool overdrive, I'd say. I can sell my pedal now. I didn't bring anything out. Let's go to 75% or 3 o'clock. Like I said, when you go to the 3 o'clock position, you definitely know that OD is on. Good stuff, man. The Dude Man checking out with you. Like the video, please, and subscribe would be great. Appreciate it. Hasta la vista, baby. Bergantino Forte D. Good stuff, man. I'm loving it. Loving it.